Hi, and welcome to a Drafthouse Diary for Friday, July 18th, 2025, when we came out here to the Alamo Drafthouse at Littleton's Aspen Grove to see Superman. And with me once again is Ian Porter, my co-host for the Inter-Millennium Media Project, and my frequent guest here on the Drafthouse Diary.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you again.
I had high expectations coming into this movie. Big fan of Superman. And everything I knew about this movie going in suggested they got it right. And I think they did.
I think they did as well. And I think they did it in the most honest and interesting way possible.
How's that?
They made it not just about Superman.
Yes.
They made it distinctly DC Comics as well. In a way that only they can be, which is the DC Comics world is weird. The DC Comics world is so much weirder. And that's part of the point. It's the fact that they're just people inside this all. And so by not dimming down that world building for the sake of the story you expect, they actually made the story stronger because the people are people even amongst all the weirdness.
And they made a decision. Gunn made a very careful decision in making this movie. He did not make this a reboot telling the Superman story. We've seen that before. I love the Superman origin story, and it has been told very, very well in almost every medium. So he didn't tell it to us again. It accepted as its basis all the things we know about Superman, some things that are a little more obscure but fit in with Superman and his idea and the whole DC Comics universe so well. Rather than telling us the Superman story, they gave us a Superman story. And it was a really good Superman story. Not the complete, final, definitive Superman story. If this had been a comic book run, I would have been very impressed and very pleased with it. It was a satisfying movie telling us a story about a central character we care about and lots of strange and interesting supporting characters, some of whom we know and care about, some of whom most of us were probably meeting for the first time. And we're going to wait for the boat trailer to go by.
Yar har.
And it all came together in a very satisfying way. And like Superman stories at their best, it was a very human story, a very emotional story with a lot of very positive messages and a very hopeful tone after all.
Absolutely. I will say, I can feel some elements which are definitely corporate mandate inside this film. There are aspects of its world building and that strangeness and the way it set things up about Superman and where he is at the end and everything that are very early in the timeline potential for the DC universe. This is very much, we can go off and set up the stories we want. We can have other stories in this as a connected world if we wish. But instead of making that the point of this or hammering it in, they are able to make this a story about Superman and his connections with others and his meaning and his intent. And they don't make him perfect, nor do they spend the entire time making him like brought down and low. He alternates between them, which means we get a full picture.
He's a man trying very hard to be good. And that is when Superman is at his best.
Not perfect, trying to be good. And the trying's the point.
Exactly. Trying. There's a literal speech about this. Getting up every day and trying to make the right decisions. That's what makes Superman Superman, ultimately. And that's what we can all do. And as far as the filmmaking, you talked about this possibly being the beginning of a new era of movies for DC. I'm very hopeful about that because a good superhero movie needs to have the right balance of superhero action and science fiction and humor and emotion and a heart. And this had the right balance of those, but there was enough variety in tone that they could make other movies that resonate appropriately with this, but take slightly different decisions when it comes to tone.
In terms of filmmaking, I feel like the DC as a whole and Gunn practicing with the early stuff in the TV pieces have very much learned how to hone in on a comic book style that is not without cinematography in this. The colors are bright, but they're not excessive, and they are wide and varied. The characters are allowed to look like their comic book versions, and yet move and feel very real. Even when there's obvious CGI in there, it is made to look like something unearthly so that it fits.
Yes.
Every time Green Lantern threw up an energy projection, it was obviously fun computer graphics. They had fun with it, and it looked comic booky, and that made it look real, if that makes any sense.
Right. And some of the other areas in which they adapted storytelling techniques from comic books included things like framing, things like pacing, the way they juggled different locations. All of that was done using all the tools available to a filmmaker, but learning from what comic books are capable of. And it gave it just the right look, just the right feel. So other parts of our trip to the Alamo. The pre-show, as you might expect, lots of Superman stuff. A lot of commercials for Superman products like Superman peanut butter and Superman toys. We got clips of various other renditions of Superman. A dance performance from what looked like a Spanish language television station, a dance number featuring a whole variety of DC superheroes.
And some
bad costumes of DC superheroes.
Yeah.
We got a whole Max Fleischer Superman cartoon.
That was amazing.
You talk about something that knows about storytelling. There is no fat on the bones of a Max Fleischer Superman cartoon. It is pedal to the metal, get in, tell the story, never stop, and give us a satisfying ending.
Talk about a pre-show that felt like a miniature version of the movie we just watched. That putting that cartoon at the start is the perfect tone set to make sure that if you do not know what a good Superman story is going to land like, you now have seen one in short form. Here's the long version. It was exactly the right thing to put in there.
Oh, and that reminds me, one other thing about the movie Superman. It had just the right amount of reference back to the 1978 Superman.
Yes.
A few visual references or homages, using that John Williams Superman score just enough in just the right times without seeming like it was desperate to be seen in the company of that 78 Superman. It was acknowledging that as having been part of its inspiration without needing to copy it too deeply.
Absolutely.
We did get some dinner at this trip to the Alamo. I got the Royale with cheese, their basic bacon cheeseburger. I haven't had that in quite some time. It was good. Its assembly was a little off, so it was kind of messy the way it was served tonight, but it's a good bacon cheeseburger.
I actually got the Smallville Nashville hot wrap.
Yeah, part of the special Superman menu.
Which I want to say, I love that they do the special menus here at the Alamo, but I'm starting to get worried. There was confusion for me trying to order this. And when it arrived, it was great, but it wasn't hot at all. Like, the Nashville hot part of it was not in there. It didn't get into the wrap. I think they're using a lot of these special menus to, as you would expect, test new things that might go onto the menu permanently. We've seen that with a couple of other items. We've seen them test styles and then tweak them and bring that as a full-fledged thing. But doing them as often as they do, I'm worried is starting to overcrowd. Not their menu per se, but just what their servers have to remember, what their kitchen has to make every time. Things are changing rapidly enough. They don't get a lot of chance to settle down.
And we have run into problems and limitations with the kitchen here at the Littleton Alamo in the past. this seems to be one example of that. Now, I did have that Smallville hot chicken wrap last time I was here a few days ago, and it was good.
Yeah.
But then there were issues, I think maybe with our server, definitely with the fact that your order was either taken incorrectly or delivered incorrectly. They brought you the wrong thing. You had to wait quite some time to get the right thing. And then I'm sorry to hear that it was not really what you expected.
So I'm hopeful. The wrap was delicious. It reminded me more of a banh mi than it did Nashville hot sandwich in a wonderful way. But thinking about that and hoping that our servers can also have a fine time working there, I'm hoping that they can ease down and work with what they're doing so that they are not constantly throwing new things at their audience or their staff.
So some issues with the food service and with the food this time around, but it was still a fun time at the movies, and we were in one of the larger theaters. It was almost sold out. A good sign for this movie and a good sign for movies in general this summer.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us for this Drafthouse Diary. I'll be back soon with more. In the meantime, enjoy your movies, and when you do, stay till the end of the credits.